Fueled by Deathcast.
Fueled by Deathcast is all about, we are all fueled by death. We want to leave this world a little different before we inevitably leave it for good. Yeah. And so I always come to the question of, through everything that you've done and continue to do, what fuels your passion to keep creating, keep inventing, and keep doing this?
Just really interest. I follow my interest and my obsessions. I did right from the very beginning. I wasn't dissuaded about its practicality in the real world, and I'm able to notice what I'm curious about. And sometimes I'll think, what should I make next? And I have a blank page, but the beauty is the blank page forces you to figure out what to put on that blank page. And I'm not a sentimental person. I don't care if my name's remembered or any of that. People are now, because of my age, also a lot of the foundations are going, archives. What are you going to do with it? What do you want to leave behind? I go, I'm not spending my time with archives because it's a sinkhole. It's very time consuming and expensive. I'm not doing that. However, I have an idea for my death. That I would, and I've professed it in several circumstances, but that I want to be so used up that I just burst into dust at the end of my moments. And then it would happen so suddenly that I probably wouldn't even notice it. Of course, I could do the horrible thing and get really sick and have to hang around and all that, but I think that the death thing is clear, that the days that are left are fewer than the days that I've enjoyed. And I'm aware of that, and I think of it like that. How ought I spend my life, however long I have left? Yeah. Kind of the Mary Oliver, tell me, what is it you want to do with your one wild and crazy life? And you better do it, and get everything you don't want to do out of the way. So I'm a little more adamant about, no. And I leave the things, I don't have the privilege of not raising money with my whole team. I have a whole team. It's not just me.
Right.
I'd rather not ask people for money, but if I go to market, then they'll be asking me for money.
Right.
I like that. But I guess I think death is a very amazing thing, and I think it's the only thing that keeps anyone humble, knowing that you too shall meet the same end as every other single person.
It's inevitable.
And I find that very inspiring.
Yeah, no, and it's inspiring when you think about it in your context. Is like, why would I not live every day of my life the way I'm going to live it? Because there is that inevitable finish line. I'm going to make it there at some point. Why not use myself up to the fullest? And I think that's inspiring. But
the thing is, you get into habits, right? Especially, sure. I have people that depend on me and this and that, and I want to read a difficult book all the way through, and I that's how I want to spend some of my time, continuing to learn, meaning continuing to learn. And I want to, my girlfriend says I should meditate. She doesn't request it. No, she doesn't suggest it. She now requests it. I go, I know it would be good for me, but I just can't sit here. I'm trying.
I get it.
Trying. And then I think, your question is so deep, obviously. But I think that you have to have the bravery to learn how to say no to a whole bunch of things. I have a hard time saying no to, but I'd rather. And then you have the time to do what you really must do before the end comes. And that's a discipline I'm trying to gain. To say no is very hard.
Yeah, and that kind of brings me to another thing I've learned about STREB, and something that you've said in past interviews is that you believe that risk is important. You put risk into everything you create, everything you invent, and everything that you are trying to put out into this world. Is risk, does it ever become a hang-up, or does it fuel what you are creating?
You are so beautifully prepared, I have to say. Thank you. This is probably the best interview maybe I've ever had.
Thank you very much.
You're beautifully prepared. And he doesn't even have any notes. Like, he's the next question. Yeah, really. Beautiful. Beautiful mind.
Thank you.
Risk is, I think if there isn't potential tragedy built into something, like things could go wrong, I do think that it would be like Shakespeare never writing a tragedy. Like, it has to be part of the drama of action. And can I create the temporal schemata that is the subject of what we do. It is the rhythm of the action. And so without that endpoint, that point of which, I mean, when I'm watching that, I'm thinking, will it break?
Exactly.
This is a prototype. And, we have had one bad accident here, but not all the horrible accidents I've ever had that I've watched, which I think now I have PTSD because I've seen in 40 years things you don't want to see.
Yeah.
And here, there was this, you can't, if you start to go on the bias, you're head first, and you're going to hit one of those pipes.
Yeah.
And that's head first, and there's nothing you can do about it. And I think that, where you think, oh, this is a pretty benign machine, you're just going straight and swinging, but it's not. No machine is benign, because all of a sudden this weird thing could happen. And so I think when I ask them to do certain moves, I worry, should I not ask that question? That sort of is how the fear of risk or death figures into my questions. Wow. And I think most dance people and movement people, not certain sports, certainly let's say dance, are so worried about their well-being. And especially it's like the blonde kind of handsome rich guy has never gone into boxing.
Right.
Like, why? I mean, it's a phenomenon. There's not one. Not one. What fools they are. They can't get hit. They can't get hurt. But many, many action people in dance are way back from the line at which they might get hurt. And so we try and move up to that line. And then we peer over it and go, but really and truly, you're this far still from where you would die. And then you could say, well, I want to get as close to the moment where we're risking our lives, but not dying, because that's my job, not to die.
Right.
Not to have it, my questions make someone else die. But I try to get as close. I get my nose up to that window as much as I can. And I think that without that danger and that potential harm and that risk, a person this is really about class. How willing are you to let yourself get scarred up? Get that close to the window of no return. And that's part of what action has to be about. And so we flirt with that veneer of safety and try and go out over it and develop the skill to survive those zones as much as we can. But that's where the theater and the tragedy occurs, and you're doing this artificial thing to mostly a bunch of rich people, so you gotta scare them a little.